All right, so recently Chris D'Elia was on Soft White Underbelly, and this was just a weird interview. Usually this channel, they interview people that are addicted to drugs or people that are homeless or in sex work. This time they just interviewed a comedian, and I guess at least he's a creepy comedian, so that's something. But also, a lot of people are upset that he would even give Chris a platform, even though he's had on people that have done a lot worse than Chris. But people in the comments are arguing this was more of a publicity stunt for him. Like this comment says, you can interview serial killers, drug traffickers, and thieves, but I draw the line at Chris D'Elia. And somebody else tried to explain it more. They said it's different if the interview was Chris being vulnerable and honest. Even if he was still denying the evidence, he could have been more honest. This is obviously a publicity stunt to manipulate people into thinking he's the victim, and he's just doing this to help maintain his career and public image. They also said, did you hear the long, unnatural pauses and poor me vibe? Like, if that was his normal way of being, it would be consistent. This man is loud, obnoxious, and lives on the edge in every conversation. How come he all of a sudden can't find the words? It's just not adding up. And yeah, you could tell he's definitely trying to get sympathy. He probably thought this would be some deep, introspective interview he was doing, but it was just so awkward. It was hard to listen to. Like, I think there's more silence in this interview than him talking. I mean, he would stop every couple of words and just sit there and look around, like Andrew Schultz having an epiphany. He's just sitting there and pondering every thought he had, and he could never even finish a thought. That's why it was so hard to listen to. It's crazy he talks for a living. He's a comedian and a podcaster, but in this interview, it's like he's learning to talk for the first time. It's wild. But I don't really have a problem with him being interviewed because I think most people can kind of see through the BS. I don't think this really helps him at all. And like I said, this channel has interviewed worse people than Chris, and it's always kind of the same style. He lets them say whatever they want, and they usually try to get sympathy from people, of course. You can make the case that maybe he shouldn't interview any of these people, but I don't really see how interviewing Chris D'Elia would be out of line, but interviewing some of these other people would be fine. I mean, I guess you'd say Chris is trying to get something out of this more than other people because he has his own platform, so he's trying to change his image. But like I said, this isn't working. This isn't going to change much. Like, the whole thing was just really cringy to watch, but it was funny seeing him try to navigate the questions and give what he thought would be the right response. And that's why this didn't feel very genuine at all, because you could see him overthinking and being very careful about every single word he says. So I don't know why he would even want to do this interview in the first place. I guess maybe he thought it'd be the best way to address things, but it clearly was not. Like, this felt like an interrogation video or something, like people were pointing out in the comments. Even though it's not like the guy was pressuring him to answer anything or asking tough questions. Like, the toughest one was just, are the allegations true?
Mm-hmm.
Was there some truth in the allegations?
I was a womanizer, and that's the truth. And no, I mean, what I was canceled for was not the truth. But it doesn't matter. That's just, perception is kind of a lot of people. I was out there having sex all the time with people I barely knew, and I realize how that can get. You don't know people, so how do you know, if you don't know them, you don't know what they're like, and it's.
Yeah, so this interview is just a mess, and I know people in the comments were saying this sounded rehearsed and it sounds like he's acting, but it sounds like he's acting if he forgot all his lines or something, because this is just terrible. You could tell what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, like, if you're hooking up with random people, you don't know their boundaries or whatever, but instead he is just all over the place. Like, he's stumbling through every sentence and he can't finish the thought. This was just so hard to watch. Like, this was not the best way to address things. I think if he were to address things properly, he should actually talk about the allegations. The guy should mention what they are, because there's a lot of different stuff he's accused of, and I'm sure not all of it is true. Like, on the internet, whenever somebody gets in trouble, there are going to be people that pile on and make stuff up. So it'd be better if he's more specific about things, because if he says none of the allegations are true and he did nothing wrong legally, then he should be an open book. He should be able to talk about any accusation. But the fact that none of them were even brought up, like, they never mentioned what he did or what he was accused of, that's not the best look. But I will say, I remember watching that Chris D'Elia problem documentary, And some of the stuff was compelling. I think like the biggest thing to come out of all that was it seemed like Chris wanted to start some kind of sex cult thing, which is definitely weird and creepy and concerning. But also in that documentary, there's some really serious accusations made, like some of the worst stuff. And there wasn't much evidence provided. And with stuff that serious, it's hard to just take some anonymous person's word for it. So I don't believe everything he's accused of, unless there's some information out there that I'm missing. But also, I think it's more than he makes it out to be here. And it's hard to tell if he actually learned his lesson. Even if the worst thing he did is just having sex with random people, you're kind of playing with fire with that. You're asking for trouble unless you're very careful about it, because just having sex with random people, eventually one of them is going to get upset and try to cancel you. And also, Chris is still married. That's a big part of it too. And you'd think after all this, he's been through it enough. You'd just think, all right, I'm done with it. It is not worth the headache. I'm happy with just my wife. But after this interview, honestly, I don't know. It's really hard to tell if he's learned his lesson. So also in this interview, in the beginning, he asked Chris about his childhood, which he usually does with the people he's interviewing. And, most of the time, obviously their childhood is very traumatic, and that's what leads to their problems later on in life. And with Chris, you could tell he's searching for something, and he brought up how he's kind of bullied in high school. So then when he's talking about getting canceled, he kind of uses that to explain his creepy behavior.
I was definitely like, and I had a chip on my shoulder too. I was like, well, nobody likes me. They just think they like me now. They wouldn't have liked me when I was being fucking bullied in high school. They just like me now because I'm on tour. I'm famous, And I remember having a chip on my shoulder about that and thinking, it was just a weird, wrong, fucking stupid way to live. Like I was all consumed in all of it. I would go, I would make people laugh, and I would try to get laid.
Celebrity's an intoxicating drug, isn't it?
What's that?
A celebrity is an intoxicating drug.
Yeah, man. I would,
especially for a young man.
I wish. It's a weird thing because it's like everyone thinks it's the goal is to be famous. And it's not bad. It's just there are good and bad things to everything. And it's just hard. You can't surround yourself with people that are just like, you're great. Because then you'll become an insane person.
So at least there's some self-reflection here, but the way he's talking about it is just so weird because it sounds like it's the first time he's really thought about this stuff. I don't know if he's just stopping and pausing every second for dramatic effect or something, but, the way he's talking, it's like he's never had these thoughts before. Like he's just now figuring this out. So that's why this interview just felt fake to people, because also I'd say he just is a bad communicator, but the guy's a stand-up comedian, he has a podcast, and he's been canceled 3 times. You'd think at this point he's thought about it enough, his thoughts would be collected, and he would be able to explain things better, but he is just all over the place. The way he talks about it, it's like he was just canceled yesterday. I mean, listen to him try to explain this right here, and I know what he's trying to say, but the way he goes about it, he sounds like an insane person, like he said earlier.
It's very hard to figure out how to put your house on fire out when people are mad at the thing that's not the problem, people would be angry at a certain thing that it's just as that isn't true. So this is why I got so deep in the woods of it. I'm like, I don't even know how to fix the right thing, because people don't know. People don't know what is actually happening.
I don't think he knows what's actually happening. I mean, this is crazy what's going on here. And also, a lot of people in the comments are saying that this channel should interview one of Chris's victims now. You know, they should have the same opportunity and get the same platform as him. So maybe that'll happen. We'll see. But that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. And if you want any more content, make sure you go check out my Patreon account. There's a ton of stuff up there. If you want to hear about the degeneracy of Ari Shaffir, or if you want to hear about the worst podcast of all time, or Tim Dillon versus Airbnb, along with 60 other videos, make sure you go check it out. I'll put a link in the description, and then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.